Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Ozark Season 4 is the final season of Ozark, which is a Netflix original series. A show in a lot of ways that I feel is the spiritual successor to what Netflix wanted to maintain, which is that desire for a dramatic drug crime show that they got a little taste of with Breaking Bad. And this one's starring Jason Bateman, Laura Linney, just a show that kind of, despite the fact it being so much in that same vibe of a Breaking Bad, definitely took that idea of crime and dealing with drug cartels and dealing with the DEA and changing a little bit. I think they did their own spin on that kind of genre of TV show, which I did appreciate. And the fourth season just got released. They did it in two parts, part one, part two. Part two just dropped a few days ago, and I was very excited. The way they left off part one, I was so amped. And then watching part two was very disappointed. On almost every single level. Which is a bummer for a show that, for the most part, I enjoyed the entire run of the series. I know there's been some critics of the series, and I never had an issue with this show until Season 4, Part 2. But Season 1 was great, or Season 4, Part 1 was great. Part 1 picks up, you got Ruth, who I love, is my favorite character by far in this show. I am definitely going to be spoiling aspects of this, so if you haven't watched Season 4 of Ozark, I'd recommend you do that before listening. But if you don't mind getting spoiled on every single thing that happened, because I'm going to be talking about the highlights, the moments of Season 4 that really stood out to me, whether they be good or they be bad. But just a little note up top. But we have Ruth in this Season 4. She's on her own now. She's not working for the Birds anymore, which, seeing her kind of growth throughout the entire show has been great. She's in a lot of ways like the Pinkman, the Jesse Pinkman of this show. And it's just like this, like, I wouldn't want to call her a lovable loser, because I think she's far more successful than she is a loser. But that kind of vibe where she's the underdog in a lot of ways because of her coming up, growing up in poverty, growing up in a family that are just degenerate criminals themselves, her following in those footsteps in a lot of ways, but actually being able to transcend that in so many other ways, trying to actually going to the next level of crime and what it takes to actually be a successful criminal, in her being the protege in many ways to Marty Bird, played by Jason Bateman. But she's on her own in this one. She's working with Jonah, who's Marty's son, where he's 15 years old but understands how to launder money. He has his own proprietary software in order to do so, and ends up teaming up with Ruth because they're both people that were damaged by the death of Ben. Ben was Wendy's brother who had the mental issues, and because of that was used to make an excuse for getting rid of him. I mean, they were scared that he was going to expose everything. Ben as a character in Season 3, in a lot of ways, was the audience, was like a normal person put inside this like ecosystem of crime. And him, like, sadly, him being the only voice of reason was not taken to heart because he also has mental health issues, right? Like, he's clearly the only sane person in that group, but still, because of the stigma of mental health and his past, they use that against him. And then ultimately, you have the ultimate betrayal of your sister Wendy, planning your execution, which is just heartbreaking. So now you have Ruth and Jonah, who both know that Wendy was the one at fault. And Wendy's character in this show did something that didn't happen in Breaking Bad, where you had the wife, the spouse in Breaking Bad was kind of an innocent bystander, somebody that didn't know till way later what her husband was doing. Spoilers a little bit for Breaking Bad. Whereas Laura Linney kind of knew the entire time that Marty's job was to launder money. And even when they went to Missouri, to the Ozarks, she knew what the assignment was. And because of that, she ends up, kind of finding her own footing within that type of world, contributing to the laundering, going out on her own, being more independent, and a lot of that independence that she enjoyed throughout the run of the show really became just as much of a problem as it was like her being part of the solution. Like, her narcissism and like pathological lying really hit an apex in season 4, where like every time she is speaking, she is lying, she is manipulating. There's only one scene in the entire season 4 where she's actually being truthful for once in her entire character development of the show. Like, it only got worse as the show went on. Like, her just kind of her addiction to lying, her addiction to being able to manipulate the situations around her. And there's only one moment of like actual honesty, but even in that actual honesty, it's her using honesty as a way to manipulate. Because that's like her MO, top to bottom, is 100% manipulation, 100% lying. And it's like, she became one of those characters where I was like, please. Like, I wanted Ruth to kill, as far as characters who could have died in this show, Wendy dying, I would not have had a problem with, right? I wouldn't have that much sympathy for her. There's like a hierarchy of characters that I would have been okay with dying, and ones that I would hate dying. Ruth being at the top of the list of people I would hate to die. Like, I want Ruth at the end of this show to be the only, if only one person survives, it's Ruth just finding a way out of this chaos that she was sucked into and participated in, and she somehow finds some redemption and is okay at the end. But we don't get that. We don't get that. That's one of the very, very many reasons why I didn't really like this last season. But season 4 starts off with Ruth and Jonah doing their own thing. You have Darlene and her relationship with Wyatt, which is bonkers. I mean, it's nothing different for stories to have these relationships. It's just generally a really old man and a really young woman that portray these kind of I don't even know the proper term for that. I know there is one, but these like May, June, I don't know. This is like a December, January relationship. But it is what it is. It's like, okay, he loves her, fine, whatever. But she's like, in a lot of ways, Darlene and Wendy have a lot in common. Like, they're both very strong women. It's just Wendy's kind of coming into her own, whereas Darlene's an older woman who's been manipulating situations for a much longer amount of time. But then you see also in season 4, you see the moment where Wendy, because she is younger and healthier, gets a little bit of a one-up on Darlene, where Darlene has the heart attack. So that's interesting, the kind of back and forth between those two. But ultimately, when Darlene and Wyatt get killed, like towards the end of part 1 of season 4, right, where the birds are working with the cartel leaders trying to get out from under being the leader. He wants to cash out. He wants to get out, and he's getting the birds to help him make that happen, because the bird family has this magical ability to make things happen, right? Despite the fact that a lot of the times Marty and Wendy are dividing their potential. Like, it seems like Marty in a lot of ways is covering up and cleaning up the messes that Wendy makes. Which I kind of like that thing where it's like this show that shows this family that's like struggling to succeed in order to survive. Like, that kind of idea is fun. And it's like this scrappy family where it's like all of the members of the family, even the kids, are kind of doing that same type of thing, despite the fact that they're all doing it in different ways. You also have this PI who's looking for the lawyer that got killed at the end of season 3, and he ends up being a giant thorn in their side, despite the fact, you have Marty working with the FBI, and he's trying to, like, it's gotten really deep in the show where everybody's got their things going on, their different big scale manipulations going on. And you have this like little character, this PI guy, who's he's trying to find his boss, and like he just wants a signature. And everybody's just doesn't want to deal with him, because it's like, first off, they don't consider him to be that big of a threat, obviously. He's more of a nuisance than anything, but becomes more because he just doesn't want to give it up. Which I appreciated that. We kind of had that in earlier seasons with other FBI agents that ended up going rogue in a lot of ways and going bad. And now a quick word from our sponsor. Now you can wear The Many Faces, original art by Ray Taylor. Select pieces from the ongoing series of abstract ink paintings. All products made with high-quality materials, made right here in the USA. Go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF merch to browse the entire collection and save yourself an extra 10% when you check out by using coupon code RTSTMF. So once again, go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF merch and save 10% when you use coupon code RTSTMF. And now, back to our show. You also have, in this one, in season 4, Wendy's trying to open up all these drug clinics, rehab clinics, because of this story about her brother having a long-term struggle with drugs, which wasn't true. But it's just another way for her to lie. Just like her incessant, she's like, she can't not lie. She has to, in order to manipulate, in order to make more weight for her argument for these drug rehab clinics to be opened and to get sympathy, to get donors. She does everything she needs to do, whether it's tarnishing the legacy of her brother that she had killed. Like, that's just how heartless and cutthroat Wendy is in this entire show. At least that's what she's become by season 4. You even have her, in order to manipulate her son, who's working with Ruth, who's working to launder the money for Ruth and Darlene. She ends up trying to get her son busted. Thankfully, her son, Jonah, calls Marty to help. And Marty's like, I have a lot of love for Marty. It's kind of a crazy situation in this show where he's like always super calm. And like actually cares about people. Like he tries to get things done without hurting people, whereas Wendy doesn't care who she hurts in the process of getting what she wants. So in that dynamic between Marty and Wendy, it's like I have a lot of love for Marty and I have a lot of disdain for Wendy. But in that scene, you have him coming to help Jonah with his issue where he's being flagged, and then Jonah finds out. And Jonah he's seeing, like, he's woken up to how horrible his family is, specifically his mom, and it wants nothing to do with her. So, of course, how season 4 ends, you have the kind of up-and-coming guy in the cartel who's looking to take over, looking to kind of, plant himself as a leader in the cartel, who's in the Ozarks trying to handle business. And part of that is dealing with Wyatt and Darlene, who are fucking up his business. They are direct competition in the heroin business because they have the heroin farm. And he goes in and he kills just after, like, there's this moment where it's like Ruth knows how horrible things are. She knows how horrible Darlene is. And she loves Wyatt, like one of the few people left alive in her family. Like, this show has just really shit on Ruth in every single possible way. Like, from her uncle getting killed, her dad getting killed, and now Wyatt, she wants to just bounce with Wyatt and 3, who is, like, barely in the show ever, the other cousin. But they plan to leave, and as they plan to leave, Darlene has the heart attack, and she's like, Wyatt decides to marry her in order to prove to her that he's never going to leave her, despite the fact that he was just about to bounce and get out of that situation entirely. And right after the wedding, both Wyatt and Darlene get shot by the cartel guy. And then you see Ruth find out. And there is a rage inside of Ruth. It's been memed everywhere that if you want to stop me, you're going to have to fucking kill me. Right? The scene, pure rage from Ruth. It's a scene that ends season 4. And it's a scene that makes me like, not that I needed another reason to love Ruth. Like, she's just a badass. She gets the job done, and she's good at getting shit done. And I don't know, she's just like, out of all the characters, she is like the only character I care about, right? She's like redeemed herself. She's grown. There's so much growth with Ruth. And then there's this just another tragedy happens to her, and pure rage comes out, right? Because Wendy's trying to, again, lie and manipulate the situation, as she does everywhere. And Ruth is just done with all of it. Like, her exit plan has been ruined. One of the few last people in her family that she actually cared for is dead. Is again killed because of the Bird family. And there's this huge rage. And that's how part 1 ends. And I'm like, holy shit. I am so excited for part 2. And what I hoped to see in part 2 is like this man on fire revenge killing spree. Like, I wanted Ruth to lay waste to everybody. I wanted the last episodes of season 4 to be her hunting everybody down and killing everybody, and somehow winding up in her dream home on the lake with a swimming pool that has no point in being there, just relaxing on that outdoor couch, drinking a beer, laughing, thinking of the memories she had with her family, and just laughing as she stares out on the lake, pristine lake, maybe a body floating by in the lake of one of her last kills, like maybe Wendy Bird floating in the lake dead, and then she sees it like pop up or whatever, and she laughs because she knows she survived. That's how I wanted this show to go in part 2, because of that rage. It's like, oh, they're setting up for some really insane shit. But that's not what we get. We don't get that rage. Part 2, season 4, you see the thing, you see her tearing off, right? She goes, gets a gun. But then on her drive to go kill this drug dealer guy, which let me see if I can pluck his name real quick. I'm definitely not going to be able to do that. Is it Omar? Maybe. Could be Omar. She she calms down a bit when she gets to, like, she finds out from the bird kids that they have a meeting, that Omar has a meeting with the parents and this people at the Shaw Industries, these people, this drug company that there was a big, their supplier is the Mexican car. Their supplier they changed to be the Mexican cartel, but that got screwed up. So then Ruth helped the birds fulfill this order for uncut heroin to sell to this pharmaceutical company, which is another way in which, Ruth has been there to help out Marty whenever he needs, and then everything around her is just slowly falling apart. So she knows that there's a meeting in Chicago, and she goes and she calms herself down, and instead of getting this man on fire, just revenge killing spree, we get a cameo from Killer Mike. You want to talk about taking me just all the way completely out of this show I'm watching. She is in a diner, killing time in Chicago because she's, waiting for the meeting to take place so she can either do the thing. It kind of feels like she's not going to kill this guy. Listening to rap music, kind of reminiscing about her times with Wyatt. And as she's leaving this diner, she just overhears a voice that happens to be Killer Mike, and they have a little conversation about the rapper that she's listening to, on how he came from nothing and was constantly looking at the big city of New York and had dreams about. And it's like, it was when I knew things weren't going to go well in this last season, where what I wanted to happen was not going to happen, because the show was already telling me we're not going to see this crazy man on fire rage killing spree from Ruth. We're going to see just things, it's just going to go a different direction than I had assumed. And that cameo is just, it's not a show that has cameos, let alone a rapper cameo. Like, it is like the most, it's like a cameo that does not fit in any way. It's just like, imagine if Breaking Bad on the final season, the final half of the final, or even Better Call Saul, like if Better Call Saul had like a cameo with Macklemore for some reason. Why? What do we need? There's no celebrity cameos anywhere in these shows. This is not Entourage. This is Ozark. And we have a Killer Mike cameo where he has a conversation about, which in some ways the conversation, I guess, inspires Ruth to follow through with her plan, because she does end up killing Omar in like a badass kind of way. Like, gets him to, go back to the Shaw offices for some reason to kill him. Well, I guess that's to go back there and then to have him meet them there. But of course there's video footage of it, but it doesn't matter. She kills him, whatever. And then there's like a bunch of drama with the whole cartel thing. Like, this show, right? It's on the final half of the last season, and it's like introducing a lot of stuff instead of wrapping things up. Like, in so much of part 2 of season 4, they're like adding more problems for them to solve instead of thinking of ways to like wrap the show up nicely. And it's, I don't know, they introduce like there's the sister of Navarro, and you find out that she's kind of playing both sides also, and she might be the one ordering all these hits, and like it's over complexifies a show that doesn't need to be over. It doesn't need that. It just needs to be wrapped up in a satisfying way, which in my opinion is Ruth riding off into the sunset, as it were. But that doesn't happen. We get a Killer Mike cameo instead. Also, something very noticeable in the second half of season 4. I don't know if it's something that it's been happening throughout this series or what, but it is clear. It is 1,000% clear that nobody involved in the show is concerned with wiretaps. Nobody is at all concerned with having conversations about hits, about drug deals, about major crime planning out in public within earshot of anybody that could be an investigator of any kind. Like, there is zero concern paid to like having private conversations in this show. And I don't know if that's something that's been the whole season, but very noticeable in season 4. Like, they are, I mean, so much of season 4 is just people getting together, having conversations about things, like telling them like all the things, like you don't really see things going on. It's just all conversations about how they're going to handle situations. And it's right out in public. It's like on the phone, no problem, not burner phones, just their own private phones. And then out in public everywhere, not at like private homes or anything. Like, so many conversations as they're setting up for like this event to get donations for the rehab clinics. Like, just conversations out in the open while people are setting up. It's crazy. Join Inspired Disorder Plus today. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus to join. Membership includes members-only discounts and deals. You get access to the Ray Taylor Show completely ad-free, as well as bonus episodes. You get access to the complete live painting archive. You also get access to every single podcast ever produced by Inspired Disorder, hosted by Ray Taylor. You get access to Ray Taylor's personal blog, as well as the opportunity to ask me any questions. So if you want to start a podcast, you're into art, ask me anything. And so many more things are being added every day to Inspired Disorder Plus. So sign up today, become a member, head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today. But I do love, which isn't something that Breaking Bad did, is that the show shows how corrupt the government is in this quote-unquote war on drugs, where it's basically like they have an opportunity to shut down a cartel, but instead they want to continue their relationship so that they can have these seizures that happen, like these money seizures that happen on the border. And it's basically the cost of doing business, right? Instead of having a legitimate business where somebody pays taxes and the tax money gets put into different government programs, this is just the same thing that police officers do. It's just seizures of money, large amounts of money, but it's just like there's payoffs of them continuing to do the drug business. That is, you don't see that in, I never saw Narcos. Maybe Narcos goes into that as well, but it's like clearly that's happening. Clearly there is a reason why this failed war on drugs continues to happen, because they are collecting tons of money in doing that. It's not some like propaganda of like, oh, the government's the good guys, which in a lot of ways Breaking Bad was very much. I really can't think of a situation where they showed corruption in the government at all in Breaking Bad. So I appreciate that aspect of Ozark, right? Which is very much in the last season. It's all about the Bird family trying to make these deals with the FBI, with the DEA, trying to get immunity, trying to get these cartel leaders to work with them to be informants in order to continue to do business. So that I did appreciate. I also appreciated there's a scene where Marty has to go to Mexico because he's acting on behalf of the cartel leader because he's in prison in the States. And so Marty has to go. So you kind of see Marty act as like drug boss, which is kind of an interesting thing because he's not a very angry person. He's not a very violent person at all. But then he's going and, orchestrating the same type of torture that was happening to him not that long ago, which I think may have been in the beginning. So it's kind of interesting seeing him in that position. And then there's also a road rage incident where he ends up getting out, and because he's so angry at Wendy, getting out and beating up on a guy. They're in like just bumper to bumper traffic, and this guy's like yelling at him to move, even though there's nowhere to move. Kind of like, it's like they just wanted to see Marty rage out for like we need Marty to throw hands. How are we gonna make that happen? It's like, oh, well, let's just make some, we'll just make a traffic jam, and then somebody in the traffic jam will be completely oblivious to how traffic jams work. But it was fun to see Marty throw hands, And then you get to see more of Wendy trying to manipulate, to go so far as to check herself into a mental health institution in order to make her kids feel concerned about her, which doesn't work until Marty threatens Ruth to get the kids back. Like, at that point, I absolutely hated Wendy, right? The kids, they want to do what's best for the family, but Wendy wants control. And what the kids are doing isn't what Wendy wants, so she's going to manipulate the situation to make it what Wendy wants. And it works. And it's like you want to talk about a character I wish died, was killed, and opportunities to die as well. It's Wendy. Oh, like just becomes such the most disgusting, toxic human in this entire show. Just like I have a real big problem with people that lie and manipulate or try to manipulate. And like she personifies every aspect of that 100%. And then the show, for some reason, like Ruth finds, like she kills the dude, whatever, she gets away with it. She also gets the opportunity to get her record cleaned, right? Because she wants to take over now that she finds out that she's inherited Darlene's land because her cousin married Darlene, and because Ruth was the guardian of Wyatt, she then is now the owner of all of Darlene's things, or at least half of Darlene's stuff, I guess. So she, now that she has a major stake in the casino, she wants the casino to herself. She wants to go clean. She wants to get out. She's tired of it. And she gets an opportunity to get her record cleaned, which she does. And meanwhile, throughout season 4, especially the second part, there's all these things where, like, now that Ruth killed the nephew of the drug cartel's boss, she's like potentially going to get killed, right? And there's all these things where they're like, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? They're like constantly scaring you into like, oh, is this going to be the thing? Which I hate. And it's like, oh, she's going to get her life together, but then, oh, maybe she's going to die. And it just, like, what's the point of her potentially getting clean only to, in the last episode of season 4, kill her off? Like, the whole time in part 2 of season 4, I'm like, please don't kill Ruth. Please don't kill Ruth. There's, like, times where, like, a black SUV is following her. Like, there's a scene where she gets out of her truck to go flip off. She's going to the police department, and she flips off this black SUV that's following her. I'm like, oh, this is going to be it. This is where she dies. So many scenes where it's like, oh, this is where Ruth dies. And then it's the last episode. Like, everything's... I mean, now she's... In the last episode, it's like now she's also a part of this FBI, DEA thing where she's going to be laundering money still. Which I didn't like that. There's so many aspects of season 4, part 2, that I did not like. The fact that they brought Ruth and the old owner of that diner back, and now they're a part of the whole charade of laundering money, which I don't know. It's then in the last episode, the sister of the drug cartel, who we find out is the one responsible for trying to kill the guy in prison and all these other things. We find out she's the one orchestrating this, right? Manipulating the situation, very much the Wendy of the cartel. And she gives this lady that works for Shaw Medical one last opportunity to come clean about who killed her son. And in the last episode, this lady gives up Ruth. And it was at that exact moment I was like, fuck this show. Because I know what's going to happen and what ended up happening. Ruth's going home to hang out with her friend, that they're new owners of this casino, right? She's in her dream home that's being built. And in the driveway, you have the woman who plays the cartel, the sister of the cartel leader, and she kills her. And it's just like the most like, why? I mean, obviously the show wanted us to root for Ruth. They cleaned her record. They got her. She's wealthy. She has everything that Darlene had. She has the potential successful business. She can build her dream home, get rid of the trailers, got the pool. Like all these things, it's like, yes, Ruth is going to get out on top. Oh, maybe she's got to work with the DA, whatever. The guy that's after her, he's dead. Okay, she's going to be out on top. And then it's this. So I hated the show when that happened. And then even further, for me not to like the ending of the show, not only does Ruth get killed, but the private investigator, who's been a thorn in their side the entire time, and was like the last glimmer of hope for me to be like, yes, okay, at least this. At least there's going to be some comeuppance for the Bird family. He breaks into their house to get the goat cookie jar that's full of Ben's ashes, and he's waiting for them to get back from this fundraiser. And he tells them, I've got evidence. I've got evidence that this came from your funeral home. I have evidence that this is Ben. I have evidence that you had Ben killed, and then, through his investigations. And it's like, yes. But no, because Jonah comes out with a shotgun, and it goes black before he pulls the trigger, but he pulls the trigger after. So it's clearly the Birds win. Like, people that launder money, white people that launder money, that come from good, quote unquote, good backgrounds. They're not like white trash people. They win in the end. It's like, I understand that, like, in a lot of ways, the Bird family is the Trump family. Although Trump has zero in common with Marty as far as being a compassionate person. But there's rumors that the Trump family just launders money for Putin. And that's why they probably one reason why he has so many failed businesses, because they're only fronts to launder money. But also, it's just... And I like Marty Bird. Like, if I were to change this last season of Ozark, it would be, like I said, Ruth sipping a beer outside of her dream home on that outdoor couch. Maybe Wendy's body floats to the surface in the lake. She owns the casino. The casino is no longer washing money for criminal activity. Like, she gets out. She, like, out of everybody, she gets out. That's all I wanted. And then Marty could have survived too. Jonah could have survived. The other sister could have survived too. But that's not. They, like, went in a different direction, and it's a bummer. It's such a bummer. Like, I really did not like the way this ended, but overall, I like the show. That last episode, I mean, part 2 in general was a big disappointment. But anyway, that's Ozark. That's life. People that don't deserve to survive and be successful are successful and survive. Yippee! Woo! New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.